Well, the Arizona Cardinals looked like a playoff team for much of last season, but they ran out of steam and lost the last two games, finished 8-8, missed out on the postseason. Larry Fitzgerald has not retired, hasn't made an announcement on his decision on whether or not he's going to return. The team says they're giving him as much time as he needs to figure it out. He spent his entire 17-year Hall of Fame career with Arizona. Patrick Peterson, Hassan Reddick also could be gone. Their contracts have run out. Free agents. Peterson, three-time All-Pro. Reddick led the team in sacks last season with 12.5. So let's get the offseason outlook for the Arizona Cardinals. We are joined by Kanell and Bryant McFadden, who has a Cardinals jersey behind him, that of Patrick Peterson. So I'll start with you, B-Mac. What is the offseason outlook for this team? How many of these guys are they going to lose?
Wow, that's a good question, Chris. I think when you look at the three guys you highlighted, Fitz, Pat P, and Reddick, all veteran guys, all quality leaders on the football field in the locker room. So I don't think they would accept losing all three guys. Now, granted, if Larry Fitz retires, that's one thing. But, trying to retain all three guys, I think they will try to do so. But it depends on the market. I mean, leadership is something that team needs to have, especially if you go back and look at last year. Look at some of the games they lost. I mean, they were 8-8, but we all thought, at least for half of the season, they were a playoff caliber team that would get into the playoffs, but they didn't have what it took to finish the drill. And I think there lies where you need to have quality, sound leaders in the locker room and on the football field, being able to gather the troops on the sideline in the fourth quarter and find enough in the tank to be able to finish the drill, to be able to get closer to getting a playoff spot. So three key guys, three strong contributors for the organization. All three guys were first-round selections, and they mean a lot. Not just to the organization, but to the community as well. So I guess we have to wait and see exactly what the market holds, especially for Pat P and Hassan Reddick. Reddick had an unbelievable year. I mean, pass rushers, people pay a lot of money for pass rushers. So I think he's going to have a lot of options on the market, but we just have to wait and see exactly what the GMs and the owners decide to do.
You don't see too many organizations with guys like Larry Fitzgerald and Patrick Peterson who really are lifers. Like they're just Arizona Cardinals. When you think of them, you think of that franchise and what they mean and the stability and the production that you've gotten out of them. So clearly Larry Fitzgerald's in his own category. He'll be 38 this season. The owner's already said, hey, we're going to let him take his time, make his decision. And you do want to afford him that. He's earned that over the course of his career. So I think we'll see what happens with Larry Fitzgerald. With Patrick Peterson, it's a little bit more interesting. On the open market, what is the value for him there? Does Patrick Peterson, what kind of money is he looking for? Kind of getting towards the tail end of his career. I'd love to see those two stay in Arizona. I think they could be pieces there. Hassan Reddick just might be able to go out and B-Mac just mentioned it. He might be able to go break the bank somewhere else, coming off a season like he had, and he just might not be able to afford to keep him. So a lot of question marks with a veteran presences on this team, and a team that really feels like they made some strides last year. Kyler Murray continues to improve. You drafted toward the defensive side of the ball last year. Like, you see glimpses, and yet they're an incredibly competitive division. They got to 500. They were up and down, inconsistent, but you just feel like, man, this team is close. But it also feels like it could go one way or another. This is a franchise that has really struggled since that Super Bowl appearance against BMAC Steelers so long ago, just kind of struggling to find their way. I think it's a big year for Kliff Kingsbury. So there's a lot of question marks around this team and a lot of issues that they need to address.
All right, let's take a look at some of the team needs that Ryan Wilson has put together for this team. Ryan obviously is our draft analyst, but also putting together needs in the offseason. And a couple of those are on offense, an interior offensive lineman, a wide receiver. But BMAC, a lot of these needs are on the defensive side of the ball, cornerback, edge rusher, and on that line, which includes an edge.
No question. When you look at the free agents they have right now on their team, not knowing they will sign these guys back, you got two of your starting corners there, Pat Peterson and Drake Kirkpatrick, two guys that started for them last year. If you lose both of those guys, you got to go out and find some cornerbacks, some guys that can be a day one starter, either via free agency or through the draft. So that's a big time need as well, of trying to get the most out of your quarterback. The best way to do so, improve the offensive line, especially the interior side, not knowing what will happen with Hassan Reddick. You better find a way to put pressure on quarterbacks. You look at their division. I mean, right now, you look at the quarterbacks, they got Russell Wilson, who's still with the Seahawks, right? You got Matthew Stafford. And if Jimmy G stays with the 49ers, he's an experienced quarterback as well. So being able to put pressure on quarterbacks, especially in your division, that's imperative. So finding a way to continue to do that to improve your defense, for me, would definitely be the top ingredients for this team to be successful going forward in 2021.
Yeah, the defensive side of the ball has to be addressed with some of the question marks. We saw the list of free agents that they potentially could lose there. I'd also look at the offensive side of the ball, too. I felt like Kyler Murray's tendency early was to rely a little bit too much on his favorite target, on the outside, and DeAndre Hopkins, which is natural. Like, you do that. Larry Fitzgerald getting up there in age, you're losing a little bit of production. So I'd like to see some piece, an offensive weapon on that side of the ball. And then the offensive line. I think the interior of the offensive line is an issue they should address too, especially for Kyler Murray, a little bit smaller. You've got to protect him. He can run the football, as he's shown. His mobility is one of his strengths, but you don't want him to have to be scrambling around for his life, which unfortunately he was doing a little bit too much for him. So I'd address the interior of the offensive line as well.
Okay, how about free agents to target? Brian, I know you put together a list for us. Who should they be going after this free agent season?
I mean, the franchise guy in that organization is Kyler Murray. So if you want to continue to see Kyler provide his best, provide weapons for him. And when you look at the wide receivers, I added Will Fuller and T.Y. Hilton to my list because the likelihood of Larry Fitzgerald retiring, I think, is likely. So if you lose Fitz, you got to add another weapon. I mean, a proven weapon. I love these two guys. Either or would definitely do wonders for the offense and would do wonders for Kyler Murray. And Danny talked about how much he relied on DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he just was dialed in on D-Hop because he didn't have consistent threats working opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. So finding a way to add another pass catcher. What about the tight end production? If you can go get a guy like Hunter Henry, wow, especially in the red zone, now you can really see Kyler Murray take steps in the right direction. Jonnu Smith may be another name that could surface. What about Gerald Everett, a guy who played within the division? You know exactly what he will provide for your offense. So improving the tight end position is something that they need to do. And defensively, I talked about potentially losing your two starting corners from last year, Pat Peterson and Dre Kirkpatrick. I mean, Shaquille Griffin, guy who played within the division, he's going to be available. He might be a bit pricier than Ronald Darby, but I think he's worth whatever it is he's asking for. And then Ronald Darby, a guy who played a full season for the Washington Football Club. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries, but that was one bright spot, being able to address for every ball game, provided 17 PBUs, still a bit young in his career. He could be a name that could be associated with the Cardinals.
I love it, B-Mac. We're on the same page in a lot of these ones, especially the Hunter Henry move. I had him as a target I would take a look at in free agency for sure. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, to try to give him. Look at the teams in the Super Bowl. You had two of the best all-time tight ends squaring off against each other. Rob Gronkowski, getting up there in age, coming out of retirement. But Travis Kelce, a lot of these dynamic offenses now are utilizing the tight end position. If you can't get it in the draft, Kyle Pitts would be an incredible asset to have for anybody in the draft. If you can't get it there, I think Hunter Henry might be one of your best options there. And then Brandon Scherff, the guard out of Washington, another player there to boost up that interior of the offensive line. Joe Thuney would be another name to look at out there, possibly boosting up that offensive line. And then I totally agree with you on the corner, and I looked at a guy like Desmond King, who was traded away from LA, went to the Titans, had a pretty good year, kind of bouncing back after that one. Maybe you can get him at a little bit more of an affordable rate to try to boost up that secondary, which looks like it's going to be depleted, with free agency coming up. So those would be my targets for the Cardinals.
All right, let's get an very early season prediction for 2021. We still haven't gotten to free agency or the draft or anything like that. But B-Mac, what should we expect from the Arizona Cardinals?
I can tell you this much, Chris. I'm making my pick far as prediction with the Cardinals under the assumption they may lose some of these free agents, right? And not knowing exactly who they will sign to replace those veteran free agents. They were 8-8 last year. This division is going to be sticky. It's going to be competitive. And I don't know if they can get to 500. And like I said, I'm giving my prediction under the assumption that they may lose some of the big name free agents. And I see maybe 7-9. I think definitely they can get back to 8-8, but that division, man, especially if they don't add pieces to help Kyler Murray, I say 7-9, depending on what happens with the free agents.
Now, hold on a second here, Chris Hassel. We talked about, earlier in this show, we talked about Russell Wilson wanting out of Seattle. B-Mac early said, Jimmy G, is he going to be with the 49ers? We got Matthew Stafford, brand new quarterback with the LA Rams. There are so many question marks left to be answered before the season starts. So I have no idea what to expect from the Arizona Cardinals, but I'll give you my best guess. B-Mac did it, so I'll do it too. I kind of lean the way that B-Mac is. I trust some of the other organizations. They've been more consistent with the winners. I'm under the assumption that Russell Wilson is going to be back under center for Seattle. I think Matthew Stafford is that upgrade that they're looking for the Rams. So I think it's more of a battle for third place for the Arizona Cardinals, with the 49ers. But this is the one you're going to have to tooth and, just claw your way out there every single week to go up there. I wouldn't be surprised either if they were 7-9 or worse. And it'll be really interesting to see what the win total is set for this team. And I would probably take the under. It's still some of these questions are answered in the division and for the team.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.